Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Adebimpe, and in this video I'm going to be showing you a perfect way to make a shirt collar, a two-piece shirt collar, and it's going to be one of the best video you have ever seen on a shirt collar tutorial. So I'd like you to please subscribe to my channel if you are yet to, hit the notification button so you get notified when I upload new videos, like and share. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is to measure the round circumference of the neck on the main bodice. So I'm going to be doing this at least twice so as to reconfirm the actual measurements. So I'm going to be placing my collar stay on fold. The collar stay is going to be used to draft the neck, the collar pattern. So I'm going to be dividing the neck circumference by 2, which gave me 9 3/4, and I'm going to be marking it out just as you see. So I'm going to be ruling a straight line on that point. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to divide this 9.75 into 2. The easiest way to achieve this is to flip your tape over, just as you see me do, to the 9.75. So wherever the center is like that, that's the mid of it. So I'm going to be marking it on my collar stay. So I'm going to be rolling it up. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to come to this edge, that is my first line, and I'm going to be coming up by 3/4 of an inch, which is 0.75. So I'm going to be blending it into the center line that I marked. You can use your freehand drawing to blend it out, but for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to be using a curved ruler. So I'm going to be setting it right, and I'm going to be marking it out. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to come up from this first line by 1.25, which is 1/4 of an inch. So your collar stand shouldn't on a normal ground be too big, but we still have some that are big. So since the line there is short, so I'm going to be ruling it more. So I'm going to be marking it on the new line also, 1.25. So I'm going to be marking it all around till that center rule up line. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to curve it out, just as you see me do. I'm going to be connecting the first line to the second line. So I'm going to be measuring that same 1.25 at the center back. That part is the center back when flipped open. So I'm going to be connecting my middle line to the center back on a straight ruler. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to get my collar curved at this edge. This is absolutely optional. Some collars are left like this. So if you're going to get it curved, you have to come in by 1/2 of an inch. You can actually draw it with a freehand drawing and still get it right. So for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to be curving it out, coming in by 1/2 of an inch and making a point there. So I'm going to be using the point to connect to each other. So I'm going to be having my curved at the angle like that. So the next thing I'm going to be doing to get my collar itself is coming in from that collar edge by 1 inch. So I'm going to be making a point there. So I'm going to proceed to the center back. So I'm going to be proceeding to the center back of my collar itself. So I'm going to be coming up by 1/2 of an inch, just as you see in the video. So I'm going to be connecting the 2 points together. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to impute the width of the collar itself. You can make use of as low as 1.5 inches and you can make use of as high as 2.5 inches. So the point here is as wide as you want it to be. So whatever you have marked out at this edge, you're going to be reducing it by at least 1/2 of an inch at the center back. So if I have 2.5 at this edge, I'm going to be having 2 inches at the center back. So So I'm going to be connecting the lines just as you see in the video. So at this edge, you can choose to come out by half of an inch or 3/4 of an inch, but I want my collar to be slimmer at this edge, so I came in by 0.25 and I rule it out. This particularly helps to knot your tie perfectly when you are making a ready-made shirt. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to cut out our pattern. So here is it. So I'm going to be placing it on a fresh fabric and I'm going to be ironing it out. So I went ahead to add sewing allowance all around. The sewing allowance of 1/2 inch. If you don't sew with up to 1/2 of an inch, I recommend you use what you sew with, but don't make it too small. So I measure 1/2 of an inch all around and I'm going to be connecting the points. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to come in from the tip of my collar itself. So I'm going to be coming in by 1 inch on both angles. So the essence of this is to get a perfect curve. I need to reinforce that part. That's the part that messed up collar stand mostly. After washing the clothes once or twice, you get that part folded up. So I'm going to be cuffing it out just as you see me do on both sides, marking 1 inch in on both sides. So I'm going to be placing a fresh collar stay and I'm going to be tracing it out. It is actually transparent, so it's easy to trace out. So I'm going to be tracing it out on both sides. So I'm going to be proceeding to place it on that angle and I'm going to be ironing it out. So it's going to be making that part very hard. So the next thing I did was to make another piece for both the collar itself and the collar stand, just as you see. So I'm going to proceed with joining the collar itself together, the two pieces together. So I'm going to be starting from one angle and I'm going to be finishing at the other angle. So I'm going to ensure I sew very close to the collar stay. I'm not going to be sewing on the collar stay. Please ensure that you don't sew on the collar stay. It's going to make flipping it over very difficult. So sew very close to it but not on it. So I'm going to be sewing around just as you see me do. Sorry about the lighting here, it's just too much. So the next thing I did was to flip the both angle on top of each other, just as you see me do, and I'm going to be flipping it over. You don't need to trim excess. If you get this perfectly well, you're going to have a perfect angle without trimming any excess out. So I'm going to be doing the same at this side too. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to top stitch all around. So I don't need to iron. So far you sew it just as I instructed. You really don't need to iron. Setting it with your hand will make everything balanced. So I placed the fabric back to the machine and I ensure that the part that does not have stay is the one beneath. The part that has stay is the one we are seeing like this. So I'm going to be top stitching all around by 1/4 of an inch. So the next thing you're going to ensure you are doing while sewing it is to ensure you are dragging the one beneath out to align it together with the one on top, because it doesn't have stay, so it may want to misbehave. So you're going to ensure that you keep on checking it. So here is it. The collar stand itself is done. So I'm going to be connecting it together and I'm going to be notching the center. So if you like, you can hold that edge down with a stitch. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to work on the collar stand. So I'm going to be flipping the sewing allowance at this part of the collar stand and I'm going to be holding it down with hemming gun by ironing it. So this is absolutely optional. You can just sew it out with your sewing machine. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to take the part of the collar stand that has stay and the collar itself, the part that also has stay. So I'm going to be placing them on top of each other. So the part that has stay is going to be on top of the part that has stay, while the part that does not have stay is going to be beneath the part that does not have stay, just as you see in the video. So I'm going to be sewing from the center down to the edge. Ensure that you are very careful and detailed about this angle, and you are not going to sew everything up through. You are going to be leaving 1/8 of an inch, just as you see in the video. So I'm going to proceed to the other side. You can start from the center out, and you can start from this edge in. So the main point here is just to ensure that you do not sew it all through. You have 1/8 of an inch left on both sides, and if you followed everything I said, you shouldn't be having excess or fold up at the center, even if you start from the other edge. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to top stitch on the collar stand where the collar itself starts and ends. So this is just to ensure that the excess fabric there is held down. You cannot trim it too much, so you have to just top stitch to hold it down so that it will not be misbehaving in the future. So that is the leftover. I trim it to like 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to be sewing, that's the 1/8 of an inch that I left while joining the collar stand together. So I'm going to be taking the side where there is no stay on the collar stand, and I'm going to be joining it together with the body of the shirt. So the side that does not have stay is going to be holding the right side of the fabric. I'm going to be placing them on each other, right side of the fabric plus the right side of the part of the collar stand that doesn't have stay. So I'm going to be stitching it together just as you see me do in the video.
So I will sew it down till I have 3 to 4 inches left to the center back. So I'm not going to sew it to the center back. I'm going to be stopping somewhere where I have 3 to 4 inches left to the center back. So I'm going to be stopping there. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to continue from the other edge, and I'm going to be putting both together just as you see me do. Then I'm going to be flipping the collar stand where there is stay over like you see me do. So I'm going to be sewing carefully very close to that edge. So I'm going to be stitching it together. The major thing to take note of here is the fabric itself, the neck circumference will be tending to expand. There are two things to do about it. Is either you stitch it down all round before putting your collar, or you carefully adjust it just as you see me do. You push the one that seems excess into the one that is having the normal measurement. So that is what you see me do just in the video. So follow along, you get it right. Push it in such a way that it's not going to be folding or pleating up. So that is exactly what I did. I don't have fold and I don't have excess left. So I notch that part and I flip it over to cover my stitch. So it's covering my stitch by 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to be doing the same thing to the other angle, cutting the excess and flipping it over to cover this stitch. So the next thing you can do is to put a hemming gum to hold it down before you top stitch on it, or you do hand stitching if you are not so perfect with this. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to flip it over, ensuring that the excess are tucked in. So I'm going to be top stitching on it from the back, which is also the right side of the shirt. So I'm going to be top stitching on it from that right side. So ensure that your stitch allowance is tucked in properly. It's just going to disfigure the whole collar if it is not well tucked in. So I'm going to be sewing inside the space created by joining the collar to the shirt. So I'm going to be making sure that the stitch allowance is tucked in properly as I sew along. I'm going to be checking that at intervals. And I'm going to be filling the 1/8 of an inch excess on this upper part, as you can see me trying to fill it so as for me not to end up having omissions after stitching it. So I ensure that I felt it all through, so that means my stitch is holding it down. Just follow what you see me do. It's better seen than explained. So follow what you see me do. So if you are very patient with the stitching, you shouldn't have the down parts missed out. You should have everything captured in your stitch. So I'm done with that part, and I'm going to be showing you how it looks like. So here is it, so perfect and so neat. Yes, as you can see, the stitch is holding it down, holding the 8 down so perfectly. So here is our finished work. This is a perfect collar, as you can see. Guys, if you have seen this video thus far and you're yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so. Give this video a thumbs up, turn on your notification button so that you get notified when I upload new videos. So the next and final thing to do is to do your buttonholes and fix your button. Thanks so much for watching.